Hey everybody, thank you for clicking on this video. I appreciate your support. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. So the Luxman R-1030 stereo is back. I made an earlier video saying that I had fixed it. Well, I guess I kind of did. The fuses, speaker fuses, were blown. So I replaced them and put it back on the bench. I put it on some speakers. Sounded fantastic. However, I did discover later on that the left channel, especially the left channel, yes, originally the right channel fuse was blown too, but I'm going to focus on the left channel because that gives me more of a chance of fixing it. And so the problem this time is it works great up to about half volume. Anything more than that, it blows the left speaker fuse. So that's not good. So what I did is I just put it on the bench again. And I tested the right channel out, and I had it cranked 100%. I've got it on an AM station in a dummy load. That's the dummy load. And I put it on the scope, and it just pumps out the volume. I mean, scope can't even read it. It's so high. And the right fuse did not blow, which was good. So anyway, I did the same thing on the left, and sure enough, once I got past half the volume, it blew. So that's not good. So what I did is I noticed on the left, so I put a new fuse in, and I put it back in the scope, and I had it just below half volume. And I was looking at the scope, and I noticed that the game or the signal wasn't as great compared to the right channel when that was at half. So this is the left channel, and if I were to have the right channel, most of the scope would be just covered. So, this is just below half volume. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pursue the left channel circuitry and see if I can find a problem. Maybe something's dragging this down. There's some excess current leaking somewhere, and that it finally reaches a point past half volume where it just pops the fuse. That's my suspicion, but I don't know for sure. So let me pursue that avenue, and I'll bring you back in when I get a little bit closer. Okay, so I'm back, and I think I found the problem. I found it pretty quick. Well, maybe not so quick, maybe 15, 20 minutes, but I think it was a bad capacitor. In fact, I know it was a bad capacitor because it's working. And in fact, I know this signal doesn't look like a lot. What I'm showing you is an AM station. I've got it tuned to a strong AM station, and I can get it in the basement. So that's kind of my test signal. But it's cranked. It's like full power. I think this Luxman stereo will put out 30 watts. I'm pretty sure. And I've got it on the dummy load, and it's getting warm. But I've had it on for now 15, 20 minutes maybe, cranked like to the top. And that fuse is not blowing, which is a good sign. But yeah, I think, in fact, I know it was C423 right there, that guy. It's a 1 microfarad, 50 volt, I think. And it was bad. It was leaky. So that's the new one. Let me just swing over to my other bench, and I'll show you where it is on the schematic. Now, again, I know my production values aren't great. But this is the schematic, and since it was the left channel that was giving me the trouble, I just focused on that. And so my thinking was, as soon as the power goes up to a certain level, like halfway, the fuse would pop. So I was thinking maybe there was some kind of a current going to ground or something like that, and just popping the fuse, because the fuse is right here. And it's not very far from, of course, the output transistors. And by the way, the rail voltages were perfect on both channels, left and right. And the transistors tested good with the multimeter, so there was not an issue there. And I even checked the transistors going back just to make sure they were fine. Now, they do have that black leg condition, but I don't hear any pops or crackles or anything like that on the audio, so I'm just going to leave it as is. I don't think I want to go change all the transistors, but Anyway, so my second thought was, well, maybe one of these capacitors is leaky and drawing current to ground. And that's exactly what it was. So this one here is the 1 microfarad C423. And just to be on the safe side, I decided to change these two anyway because they were easily replaceable, just to be on the safe side. But these two do test good on my meter, and this one does not. So let me show you what that capacitor reads. So I'm just scooting over here to my equivalent series meter, capacitance meter, sorry. I had built this a long time ago. In fact, I have a video on it. Now, this is going back like about 13, 14 years, I think. You'll see it on one of my older videos. But I built this ESR meter, and I've used this thing like a lot. Almost in every repair, I use this meter, and it works. So I'm really happy that I built it, first of all, and I still use it to this day. In any event, the numbers really don't mean anything other than, when it gets to 0, that means, there's a short. Like, if I were to touch the two leads together, it would just go to 0, which is fine. But capacitors also should go to 0, but not in a purely resistive way. So it's measuring in a different way. But this is a brand new cap. So this is a 1 microfarad at 50 volt, an Ishikon, which is a good cap. And it reads about 1.5. Now that's fine. What I find for the lower voltage or lower capacitance capacitors, they act like that. Now, if I were to use a bigger one like that, it will go to 0. There's not a problem with that. But I definitely know the lower value capacitors measure like this. But let me change that capacitor to the one that's bad. So here's the bad one right here. So I'm just going to have to put the phone down and change that out. And you can look at my bench, part of my bench. Okay, almost there. Still trying to get the leads on. My goodness. Okay, got one on. Got the other one. Okay, so let me bring it back into the shot. And there you go. Sorry for the glare. So this is reading 3.5 to 4. And that's bad. That means it's leaking. It's leaking DC current. And I think that's what was going on. That's why I was popping the fuse when I would go past half. Yeah, like I said, I've been running the amp now for at least 15, 20 minutes. Full blast, full 30 watts into a download. Not a problem. Not even blowing the fuse. So what I'm going to do next is, I think, just to be on the safe side, is I'm going to go to the right channel and change out these capacitors and bring it back to the shot. And maybe we'll measure those ones too to see if they're any good. Because I know at first when I started using this stereo, I had it upstairs and I never used it. So I decided to bring it downstairs to do some testing, actually. And then that's when I noticed the problems, right, with the fuses blown. In fact, the right channel was blown too. So maybe we're going to find this cap here to be bad also. Anyway, I'll bring it back into the shot once I get that set up. Okay, so I changed more capacitors than I was expecting. But I'll get back to that later on in the video. I put the stereo back on the bench, and I tested the left channel. I cranked it up, had it on for 15 minutes or whatever. It doesn't blow the fuse. So problem solved. Definite. However, I went to the right channel just to make sure everything was good there. And I've got another problem. I don't have anything at all from the right channel. So I did a little bit of testing, and I think I've narrowed the problem down. And I'm just about to delve into that a little bit more. But unfortunately, I have to take the faceplate off in order to get to those components. Go figure, right? And I think the problem is right here. So this is the input. There's some circuitry before this. I've got a sine signal coming in on the auxiliary jack, right channel. So this is the right and that's the left. So I'm focusing more on the right channel. And I've got the signal through these two transistors here, not a problem. However, I don't have the signal at the base of this transistor. So I went a little bit back and I got the signal there and I got the signal there, but I don't have the signal coming to that base of the transistor through that capacitor. So what I'm going to do, maybe these Mylar capacitors are bad, I don't know, or it could be a trace that's broken, I don't know. Now that also goes to the center wiper of the treble, but I need to take that cover off in order to check a little bit more. So I'm going to do that. Let me take the front off and we'll see what we have and I'll bring it back in. Okay, the problem is fixed. I made a mistake. So while I was replacing all those caps, I totally forgot one cap, and it was that one there. Not that it matters, but anyway, it was good doing the troubleshooting. It brought me to that location, and I noticed it right away. So there you go. Anyway, new caps put in, and it's working great. I'm running full power at this point on channel, the right channel. And my scope does not have a 10 times probe, so I'm maxing out. But there you go. That's just before the peak, or it's just before the cutoff. So everything's working great. And what I'll do is, let me bring you over to the capacitors and show you those. So here's the capacitors, and it's crappy lighting, I know. Let me take this off here. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, so here's the caps that I changed. Now, these blue ones and the gray ones, the company name is Mar-Cap. It's hard to read, but I'm pretty sure it says Mar-Cap. Well, they're generic and they're kind of crap. So, and these two are actual Nippon Chemicon capacitors. They're fine. I didn't have to actually replace them, but I did anyway. But all the other caps are good. So you've got some Rubicons in there. You've got Nippon Chemicon. And I don't think I said a Nishikon. But those three brands are just great. So they'll, I wouldn't say last forever, but they're going to last a lot longer than the no-name brand capacitors. And these ones are failing. They're leaking. They're leaking DC current to, well, most of them are going to ground. So they're bad. Anyway, they were all replaced. Stereo works great now, both left and the right channels, not blowing any fuses. I think we fixed it. So thank you for hanging in there. If you have any questions, leave some comments. I would appreciate it. And if you haven't seen some of my other videos, please go back, and I've got a lot of great electronic projects that I've built for magazines. Anyway, thanks for hanging in there. Bye for now.